Welcome to the JC24 Sports Note for Sunday night, February the 11th, 2024. We could kind of call this not just Super Bowl Sunday, but History Sunday. Not only with the game that's going on right now as I'm taping this, and we've got San Francisco up 10-3 early in the third quarter. The 49ers going for their record tying sixth Super Bowl win. The Chiefs would actually be going for their third championship in the last 5 years. We also saw a lot of other history on the line earlier today in Lincoln, Nebraska. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way that a lot of college basketball fans had hoped, and you know where I'm going with this, as Caitlin Clark needed 39 points to break the all-time Division One women's scoring record currently held by Washington's Kelsey Plum. The good news is that Iowa ranks second in the country right now, coming off their first Final Four in 30 years, had a 14-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and then just completely had the bottom fall out, getting outscored 27-10, lost, and Clark was actually held scoreless for only the second time in the fourth quarter in her collegiate career. Because remember, the women's game went to quarters less than 10 years ago here. So this just means that Clark is now 8 points away, scoring 31 in this game. And she will be breaking that record probably in the first quarter or very early in the second quarter on Thursday in Iowa City at a home game. Now there's, you could talk all you want about did she possibly hold back, to try and break the record at home? Did they think that they would have the lead, and it would be comfortable enough? But Nebraska seemed to make the right amount of adjustments in that fourth quarter, build the momentum, and Nebraska is certainly not a team to sleep on, because this was more important, not only for Clark not getting the record this afternoon prior to the Super Bowl, so everyone could get home and get their tailgating and everything on for that. But it's also more important that this loss now drops Iowa into a second place tie with Indiana in the Big Ten. Ohio State is now the top team in the Big Ten. It's going to drop Iowa out of the second overall ranking in the country. It could end up dropping them out of the top five, where they're going to get supplanted by Ohio State, possibly at 2 or 3. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to beat South Carolina right now at looking for back-to-back championships, and also looking for their second title in 3 years and their third consecutive Final Four. Keep in mind here that also with Clark, and we're going to talk about how she connects to somebody who played at South Carolina and played against just last year in the Final Four, is going to bring things full circle here in a couple of moments. But again, Clark getting the Hawkeyes to their first Final Four in 30 years last year, coming up short against LSU in the national championship game, and a lot of people were really starting to take notice of Clark, and then just hit the ground running as gangbusters this year, and has put together one of the more impressive seasons this year, following up on a year last year that saw her become the first woman in college basketball history to have 900 points and 300 assists in the same season. Clark, again, 9 points away. Kelsey Plum's all-time record is 3,559. Do the math. That actually puts the surprising part about Clark's record is not only is she going to pass Plum, she's got Pete Maravich's all-time Division One record in her sights as well. Maravich, even though it was only 3 seasons, back in his day, was 3,667. That's going to put Caitlin Clark, as of right now, 140 points away, and the Hawkeyes still have several more games, the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament, and if she's averaging over 27, 28 points a game, that's still going to give her enough time to run Maravich down. So you figure that's going to only need probably 5 or 6 more games. She may have the chance to get there before the end of the regular season because the Big Ten tournament takes place the first week of March, and if you with the way that the Big Ten is set up, at least right now, the top 4 seeds get first round buys. So Iowa would like to have that first round bye straight into the quarterfinals. They're almost assured right now of being that because even though they're tied with Ohio State at the I'm sorry, they're tied with Indiana. They still have that spot because Nebraska is now climbing up, and they've now got that fourth spot in the Big Ten. But they're 3 games back of Iowa and Indiana, who are just a game back of Ohio State. So it's very, very important that if Iowa's going to make another potential run at this thing, to be able to get back to the Final Four for back-to-back years and possibly let Clark win a championship going out, breaking every scoring record that there ever was. Uh, it's something that maybe they would like to be able to get that number 1 seed. Maybe get a little bit better draw. 2 or 3 is not going to be bad, but definitely this is a team that had national title aspirations out the gate. Even though they're still going to be in the top 5, there's still a possibility for them to get on the one line. We're going to find out when that happens because Thursday, the tournament selection committee is going to pick their first 16 teams, slotted on the 1, 2, 3, and 4 lines, similar to how the college football playoff committee comes through midway through the season with their top 4 rankings, for the playoff, and then the teams on the outside looking in. But Clark just keeps continuing to make more and more and more history the way that she goes, and the scoring record is just going to be the icing on the cake. She's going to win a second straight Naismith Female Player of the Year. She's actually going to, ironically enough, be the 10th player to do that. And she's also going to be the first back-to-back winner in a number of years. And her, Kelsey Plum, and Brittany Griner are going to be the only 3 players in the top 10 to have also won the Naismith Scoring Award. As a matter of fact, they are right now. Clark is also going to be, regardless of how the Iowa season ends, she's going to be the first player taken in the WNBA draft when that comes around on April 15th. Oh yeah, the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft this year belongs to the Indiana Fever for the second year in a row. With that first pick last year, they ended up taking Aaliyah Boston. South Carolina, Boston played at South Carolina, was a National Player of the Year, got the Gamecocks to the 2022 National Championship, and then Clark's Hawkeyes beat South Carolina in the national semifinals last year before ultimately falling to LSU in that highly publicized national championship game. The second consecutive number 1 pick going to Indiana is impressive. And again, Clark about to win her second consecutive Naismith Female Player of the Year. She's going to be the first one since UConn's Breanna Stewart. And Stewart won the award 3 times, and the only other person to ever do that was Cheryl Miller, who won it 3 times at USC in the second, third, and fourth year that the award was ever given out, starting in 1983. But just look at the history that we've actually seen just in the last month. We got Clark going to break the all-time record for women's. She's going to end up breaking Maravich's record here in the next couple of weeks. We saw earlier this week legendary UConn head coach Gino Auriemma get his 1,200th win. He's actually only the 3rd Division I college coach to reach that mark. And oh yeah, the 2 guys that the 2 individuals that he's trailing, he's got Mike Krzyzewski at 12:03, and then he may not ever get to number 1 because number 1 right now is Tara Vanderveer with Stanford, who broke Krzyzewski's mark 3 weeks ago and is still continuing to roll. Now, UConn is still in the mix here, but UConn has not been the same team for the last couple of years. You could actually you could put that on Breanna Stewart's leaving. You could put that on the injury history of Paige Buchers the last couple of years. But it's all kind of irrelevant because everyone has a puncher's chance if you're on one of the top four lines or even maybe the fifth or sixth line in women's college basketball. Well, actually, I should say in men's college basketball, it's so wide open. With the women's game, you've got to be on one of the first two lines because of the fact of the there's no neutral sites the first two rounds of the tournament. They play them at the home teams of the highest seed in that section of the bracket. So would Clark like to be able to host the first two rounds in Iowa City, striving for a Sweet 16, an Elite Eight, a Final Four, and a potential national championship. But she's got to go through some very stiff competition, including an Ohio State team that they lost to in overtime after blowing another fourth quarter lead just a couple of weeks ago in something that we all saw that she got knocked down when the fans rushed the floor after the victory. But it would have been nice to see her break the record. It's going to be very, very nice to see her break it at home. But she's such a competitor that she's going to put this right behind her very quickly. They're going to go out. They're going to take care of business against Michigan. They're going to get on. They're going to get back on track, and they're going to they're going to start putting things together to make a run at chasing down Ohio State and possibly even closing the gap on South Carolina, who's still going to be a unanimous number one, more than likely going into the SEC tournament and also going into March Madness. So let me know what you guys think. Where do you think the ceiling is for Caitlin Clark? Do you think that do you think her and Breanna Stewart are going to pair well in Indiana? Do you actually think that she's got championship aspirations within her first couple of years, like Kelsey Plum did, where Plum was drafted first overall by the Las Vegas Aces a couple of years ago, was the sixth woman of the year back in 2022, and is coming off of back-to-back championships with the Aces. Where do you see Caitlin Clark's ceiling, not only for the rest of this season, but also maybe the first couple of years of her professional career in Indiana? I will be back with you guys before too long. Wise Guy Sports Show, Saturday nights live on YouTube at 9 p.m., and I will talk to you soon. Take care.